Well, schools aren't just for teaching math, reading, or science, and to be honest, they haven't been for a long time. But now they're also teaching kids to feel ashamed of their families. 158th graders at Badger Middle School in West Bend, Wisconsin, were recently given a privilege test that identified them as being privileged for being white or rich or having an intact family. This is common, by the way, in schools across the country. School officials at Badger Middle School said that privilege education was important to enable the students to succeed in their careers somehow. Nell Daly is a psychotherapist, and she joins us tonight. Now, thanks for coming on. This strikes me, and I've seen this before, I've seen it with my own kids, it seems cruel. Children are, as you know, very sensitive about being called out as different. And that's exactly what this does. And it singles out some kids and basically suggests that they're bad for things they can't control. Why would they do this to children?
Well, I would have to respectfully disagree with you here. As a journalist, let's just put this into context. They gave this test in an English class after the students read To Kill a Mockingbird. And what they were doing was discussing Jim Crow laws. So it's very difficult for teachers to teach history, U.S. history and world history, without talking about privilege and how positions of privilege, when they're abused, can lead to really horrible crimes being committed to humanity.
But I'm confused. So these are middle schoolers in Wisconsin in 2018. To Kill a Mockingbird is about Mississippi in the 1940s. What do their families have to do with that? Like, literally nothing.
It wasn't their families. What they were talking about is whether or not kids recognize what kind of privilege they have in the society by being who they are. For example, perhaps white, perhaps male. And it's teaching children that they need to have compassion for people who are on the other side of whatever they are, and to also not abuse that position of privilege moving forward in their lives.
Oh, so they're scolding the kids for things they can't control, like their race or the condition of their family. I mean, by the way,
I don't believe anybody was actually scolded, and in fact,
but the implication is, look, you have a special responsibility to be sensitive because of something you can't control. And by the way,
absolutely.
You really
and Tucker, if we didn't teach children this at this point, right, then we're going to raise little boys who end up becoming producers and executives at large movie studios who then end up committing crimes against women like rape.
Right.
We need to teach children how to be really compassionate towards other people and to be much more sensitive to not abusing their positions of power.
How is this compassionate to single out little kids?
They're not little kids. So
they're
in fairness,
middle schoolers.
These children, no, they're middle schoolers. So by the time the children are in the 8th grade.
But hold on, how is it compassionate to make them feel bad for their race or their family situation? This does make them feel bad. It's happened to my kids.
Tucker, this is talking about shame and vulnerability is a crucial part of the classroom, and it's interesting.
Oh, it is?
What the parents, yes, because what the parents were saying was that
are the teachers qualified to do this?
You've sat through U.S. history classes, you've sat through world history classes.
Yeah, and I think it's one thing. Hold on, I'm not sure that being a middle school history teacher gives you, first of all, the right to talk to my kids about their family and to make judgments about their family, A. B, are they really qualified to navigate something this delicate? With does a bachelor's degree in history give you the ability to do this, to tackle the nuances here effectively? I'm not sure. I'm not convinced.
As a psychotherapist, I read the actual survey, and some of the questions, I agree with you, were a bit bizarre, and I didn't understand them. But asking children to recognize where they hold positions of power because of their race or their gender is really important, and it's very difficult for teachers
No, I
to
would correct you by saying it's really stupid, actually, because the idea that all people of one race are empowered and people of another race are disempowered is, first of all, factually wrong.
You're making this binary. This is a very nuanced conversation.
I'm not making it binary.
When you talk about the Civil War, when you talk about World War II, how do you talk about those kind of world history events where many, many people were killed, where blood was actually spilled because of race, because of politics? You can't not bring this stuff up with kids in a classroom.
Right. And I'm not suggesting that you don't bring it up. That's not at all what I'm saying.
That's what the teachers are doing. The teachers were hoping.
Well, hold on. Slow down. What I'm saying is that you shouldn't say to kids that somehow you're implicated in it. The Civil War took place 150 years ago. It has nothing to do with the kids at Badger Middle School in Wisconsin.
No, that's not what the survey was saying. The survey was saying, do you recognize where you hold a position of power. And the thing that's interesting is what gets triggered.
But this is, hold on, this is subjective. This is totally subjective. I mean, I could say let's be totally real here. It's not always true that the white guy is the most powerful person in every situation. That's a gross generalization, actually.
I agree with you, but let's just say, for example, that men still make more money than women across many, many industries in this country. That's a position of power because you're a male in this society. And it's true if we look at...
That's just not actually true, though. I mean, I don't know. I'm not faulting you. I know you're a shrink, not an economist, but you may not be keeping current with the actual numbers on this. That's not actually the whole story, but that's a whole another conversation. I'm saying, why is it not okay just to have teachers teach history and English and math? We're turning out generations of illiterates. Why wouldn't we stick to those things?
Well, you have to teach history. You also have to teach why these things occurred in U.S. history. And part of that is an emotional conversation. You cannot talk about the Civil War, Jim Crow laws, without it becoming emotional.
Yeah, apparently not. I can. Nell, thank you.
All right.
Great to see you.
Thank you. Good to see you.
We'll be right back.
Okay.